It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. Season 2.
Welcome along to the worst idea of all time, episode numero 45. My name is Tim Batt.
My name is Guy Montgomery, and hey Tim, old buddy, old pal, first
Yes,
time
sir.
talking to you, even seeing you this year. You look great, you smell better, it's good to be alive.
Thank you so much. Guy, whereabouts are you coming to us from?
I'm not next to you, so the smell
No.
was a guess.
Yes.
I am in Christchurch, New Zealand, the mainland.
Jewel of the South Pacific.
What, New Zealand or Christchurch?
Christchurch specifically.
Truly not.
No, it isn't. It definitely isn't. But it's a nice town. It's fine. I was born there. You were born there. We were all born there.
I was born in Wellington, actually.
Well, we're all children of New Zealand, Guy, and that's what matters. Welcome to a podcast where Guy and myself watch Sex and the City 2 every week for an entire calendar year and keep reviewing it. We're up to week 45.
That is,
And-
it's a heck of a lot, Tim. I actually, because you just called it a review podcast, and it occurred
Yeah.
to me in between the movie finishing and this conversation beginning that we haven't really been abiding specifically whatever the rules or notions of a review are. We find it very difficult to bunker down and nail into the movie, you know, as a movie is traditionally reviewed, which is you assess the plot, the acting, sort of the whole feel of the thing, the scope of it.
Well, gosh darn it, Guy, this is the difficult thing about the podcast. How are you supposed to keep doing that 45 times in a row? It's impossible.
And therein lies the challenge.
Yeah.
You know, someone who's just about to finish an Iron Man wouldn't say, "How am I meant to finish this?" The analogy's broken. All I'm saying, Tim, is
Are you talking
what are you?
Iron Man the movie or Iron Man the triathlon?
I'm talking about the triathlon, sort of Iron Man.
Okay.
Do you know how big
Yeah,
that
it
is?
doesn't work. What do you mean? The coast to coast? Is the coast to coast a different thing?
Yeah, the coast to coast is a different thing. A full Iron Man. I know this because my little sister's, she's going to do a half Ironman. A full Ironman, that's 5 kilometers of swimming, 42 kilometers of running, and 180 kilometers of cycling. Not necessarily in that order.
Good God. How far can you swim if you need to?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a born winner, Tim. I can probably swim 15 kilometers in choppy waters.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. I got a heart that just won't quit.
You're like the human fish. I would die instantly. Not a strong swimmer.
Not if you were with me. I'd put you on my back, and god damn it, I'd drag you for 7.5 kilometers.
I'd be one of those guys in the water who freaks out and drowns you accidentally. And I wouldn't even want to do it. It's a human instinct.
I'd calm you down. I'd rub my knuckles down your spine and say, "Who's a good little catfish?" And then you would actually, it's a hypnotist technique, and then you would then think that you were a catfish, and you'd say, well, you wouldn't say anything because you'd be a catfish, and you'd just swim next to me.
Righto. How'd you find the movie this time, Guy? What was your experience like? I wasn't with you.
Okay, well, as a reviewer, Tim, I'd like to say I think this movie fundamentally fails across the board. I don't think that the motivation for I'm just following tips from dailywritingtips.com /7-tips-4-writing-a-film-review/ the actors met my expectations. Yeah, you know, they were good.
Compared to the last time you watched it, or are you trying to reset your brain?
No, I think compared to the last time I watched it, and I
Right.
think this is one of the virtues of the movie is the actors will always meet my expectations at this point, because they're more or less set in stone. So that's a positive. The acting,
I guess it is. It's hard to be disappointed when you've seen the movie 40 times before.
But I can say with supreme confidence and argue, you know, with my hand on my heart to say that the acting met my expectations this week perfectly.
Fantastic.
In
So
fact, the whole movie,
5 stars for acting?
5 stars for acting. In fact, when I put it in that lens, the whole movie met my expectations perfectly.
This is the tricky thing about doing a film review on the 45th watch, isn't it?
It's a 5-star movie. I knew what to expect, and they delivered.
Fantastic.
What did you think?
Hey, really struggled. really struggled. Didn't have a good time. I tried hard from the outset to just get in there, maximum, put myself in there into the screen and be part of the fun. And it was difficult. My shining light, actually, I'm just going to throw it in now at the 5-minute mark, was quite early on in the wedding scene. When Liza Minnelli makes that crack about marriage being a serious business, or so she's heard, which I think is a reference to her having multiple marriages over her lifetime. Nicky, who's one of their brothers, Stanford's brother?
No. Yes. No. Anthony's brother.
Anthony's brother, I beg your pardon, he is too. Nicky doesn't like that. Nicky doesn't like that joke. Nicky looks visibly disappointed, and he shakes his head, not in a way like, oh, that old Liza Minnelli, but in a way like, that was in poor taste.
He's a conservative guy. This is what we know about him. He
believes in the sanctity of marriage,
right,
and in fucking people at weddings like a machine.
He has been a youth pastor at the Church of Noeth for nigh on 6 years now. And
what gospel exactly is he following that he's leading children and just having rampant sex with 52-year-old women he meets at parties, at weddings no less? At his brother's wedding no less.
What gospel?
Yeah.
The gospel according to Chris, chapter 9, beginning at verse 4. And yea, thee shall defend the sanctity of marriage while exploring thine own sexuality with a 52-year-old woman at thine brother's wedding. Or Carrie Preston, queen of the underworld, shall take thee. Take thee testes through thine urethra.
Jesus.
I mean, it's all there, Tim. It's all in the text.
It's ancient text. It's Aramaic, so the translation isn't a handy, but we get the gist of it. That, according to Chris' show that Chris Rock did, he actually stole the title of the cartoon, the animated series that he did, from the gospel. According to Chris, the church was around before Chris Rock's show.
Obviously, the church was around before Chris Rock's show. I mean, let's not get bogged down in semantics. Tim, it's a fine shining light. And speaking of conservative, I'd like to stay on that note because I notice a potential alternative plot line or wrinkle that as yet has not occurred to me in the movie. As Dickbot takes Samantha on their lovely date, and he teaches her how to smoke shisha for the first time, and things are getting pretty heated pretty fast. I think it'd be fair to say. I don't think anyone would call me a liar for attesting to that. And the conservative man gestures that he is upset. There's outrage. He throws his cutlery down, doesn't he? I put it to you, this man is not upset by the overt sexual innuendo occurring between Samantha and Dickbot, but that his fish, which he spent 5 minutes getting the details of from the waiter, was not, as promised, seared once on either side, but in fact cooked clean through. Seared on either side maybe, but put in a warming tray, overheated. It's dry. It's crumbly. It's not a good bit of fish.
So what we've been led up to believe until this point is that there's an Arab man that we see who's sitting with his wife who's in a full burqa across from them, and when Samantha is how did you say, filleting the shisha pipe, we've been led to believe that he's outraged by that action, but actually it's just coincidence that it's happening at the same time. He's outraged by his meal.
It's just ambiguous.
Blow me down.
Ambiguous editing. And then this point was even hammered home further by wherein Samantha and Dickbot agree that they both need a walk on the beach on account of being lightheaded from the shisha, presumably, and they stand up and Dickbot is at half-mast. He gestures angrily. Now, we never see specifically who the angry gesture is at. Now, I put it to you that he is not, in fact, gesturing towards Samantha and Dickbot, but he is towards the chef or the kitchen, as if to say, well, you send them out here, and they can have a bite of it and tell me this fish isn't cooked clean through.
So then, who is the... Do we just simply not see the person who lays the complaint?
No. Well, what it is the waiter is so hilariously incompetent. He, in fact, is there undercover as part of a method writing process because he's writing a sitcom about working as a waiter in a fancy hotel restaurant. So in
Abu Dhabi.
That's right. So he deliberately fumbles the complaint all the way to the top. And so these four women are just a subplot in the pilot episode of his sitcom. So he deliberately sabotages Samantha and Dickbot's walk on the beach, and also sabotages the conservative man's request to talk to the chef about the fish. It's absolute chaos.
And ironically, the name of that subsequent sitcom is According to Chris, an original series set in Abu Dhabi.
It took him so long to get it off the ground that obviously Chris Rock kind of
usurped that title.
Well, no, because that was according to Jim we're talking about here. What did Chris Rock have? Yeah,
everybody hates Chris. Oh, you did right.
Well,
you did right.
Let's not get pop culture in a muddle. Let's all just.
It's too late for that, mate.
No,
it's not. Right tit of myself.
No, you haven't.
Guy, what happened is, I didn't enjoy watching it, and I kind of lay because I was here by the couch, and so I lay down on the couch, and then I kind of shut my eyes, and I think I may have drifted off briefly, but I can't be sure because I woke up and like everything was still happening. Because I've seen the movie so many times before, I can't tell if I remember hearing what was happening this time or if I was just drawing upon it last time. And I feel angry that I might have, as I call it, pulled a Guy Montgomery and cheated by falling asleep through part of the movie. But I will never be able to tell.
First of all, Tim, I appreciate you pulling a Guy Montgomery, as I feel that is a fair and accurate title. I would like to challenge you as to suggesting that this is in any way cheating. As you learned, you are absorbing just as much, if not more, of the film in a semi-conscious or unconscious state with the film happening around you than you possibly could as a conscious man engaging with it. The movie's only point of entry into your body now is not through you as a conscious being. It's when your defense slips. Your heart keeps going, your brain shifts a gear, and it slips through your ear, and it's sort of it's like a haze, a fuzz that collects around your brain.
Far out, man. So by osmosis really is how I'm absorbing the movie these days.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident as to why that's why you look so fatigued, because it is altogether more exhausting.
Well, I appreciate you noticing that I look very tired.
Or tired and tanned. That's the Tim Bat way. That's
the two T's of a Tim Bat summer.
Yeah, that's right. Tired and tanned. Those are a good two T's for summer.
Yeah.
It's a good way to be.
You want to chuck a third one in there? Towel.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Nothing worse than drying yourself with a wet towel.
Yeah, hate that. Or something that isn't a towel.
It's like you clean all the... Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's bad. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking underwear for some reason. And I don't know if the underwear's clean either.
I was thinking of an ice cream wrapper that you just found.
Ice cream wrapper would...
No.
It'd be like using a window wiper because it's plastic, so it wouldn't absorb anything, so you just have to use it to wipe all of the moisture off of you.
You'd be moving the water around, if anything. What you want to do, if you're in a beach scenario, don't worry about the ice cream wrapper. Pick it up, put it somewhere safe, because don't litter your beaches, but just roll around in the sand.
I was just thinking that. Would that work if you rolled in sand enough? Wouldn't you completely dry out and the sand would dry out and then it would just fall off you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, in essence,
would that only work if you were in like salt, like pure salt? Like if you were all wet and you needed to dry out, if you just chuck yourself into one of those salt mountains, would that work and just rolled around for quite a while?
Yeah. Are you not imagining being in pain when you're doing that though?
Nah, I think it'll be right.
I'd rather be hurting than wet. That's the Tim Bat motto. Wouldn't it be fast to dry yourself by throwing yourself in front of a bus and therefore the air moving around you would dry your body?
Well, as long as the bus didn't hit you, you probably got a point.
No, I was imagining that you just do it to get dry because you'd rather be hurting than wet. Whatever you're saying is, you fucking maniac. Tim, I've got some breaking news, okay?
I'm a hydrophobe.
It's arrived today from Richie Ryan or at @hip_squared on Twitter. It is a link to an article on The Guardian, the title of which, Brain-to-Brain Interface Lets Rats Share Information Via Internet.
Uh-oh.
Subheading, rats thousands of miles apart collaborate on simple tasks with their brains connected through the internet. What does this say to you?
It suggests to me that maybe Brady has formed a temporary alliance with Dickbot because Brady controls the biological elements of his kin, but the AI prowess of Dickbot is all about the tech. He's the one who's in charge of all the computerized stuff and the internet stuff. So if the rats are now communicating, it's not quite telepathy, but through the internet, like thousands of kilometers away or whatever, using the net, I mean,
that is
it's a forging
of
alliances, and it's it's the worst thing. It's the worst possible thing that could have happened. This is the one thing we didn't want to happen.
So, as a plebeian level human being, as we both are currently ranked on the Brady Dickbot scale, what's your first reaction to this information, and what's your first step towards safeguarding yourself and your loved ones?
Well, my first reaction is making a brass eye reference, which I'm glad you got. I can tell by your giggle. Did you?
No.
It's the pedophile episode.
Yeah.
Where like a guy dresses up as a skull and moves around. And there's a bit where they send a pedophile into space as punishment, but they accidentally leave an 8-year-old on board.
That's right.
Who's hiding out in there. And they get a comment from the guys who've coordinated it, and they say, this is the very worst thing that could have happened. This is the one thing we didn't want to happen. At any rate, so after that initial reaction, look, my second reaction is abject fear. And then some sort of acceptance, because I've been thinking about the end times recently a lot. And I just think we've all got to admit that sometimes it's got to come. It's got to come for us all, and just got to make our peace with it a little bit. And if it comes at the hand of an alliance between an artificial intelligence created by the Japanese in retribution to the Americans for Pearl Harbor, and his new found friendship with a boy who's controlling all of the rats in New York City. I mean, there's something beautiful about that. Of all the ways to go,
I think it's
not the worst.
It's it's called being gracious in defeat, and I think that's what you're exuding right now, Tim, is sort of just a willingness to let fate wash over you.
I, for one, welcome our internet-enabled vermin overlords.
Well spoken, Kent Brockman.
Thank you.
Now, what I think concerns me even more deeply is that the lead scientist on this, Miguel Nicolaisis, so he, pretty much what happened is, as you said, the rats, they were connected through the internet, and if they helped, they could help each other perform tasks to get rewards. So at one point, a light went on for one of the rats, and they'd hit the light, and then that would travel through the internet, and it would trigger the other rat to think, okay, I'll hit the light, and they'd both get a drink of water.
Right.
So, I mean, it's preliminary days, but it's worrying and it's fearsome.
What do you think of it all?
Well,
what do you make of it?
I think what gets me is that Anders Sandberg, who he studies the ethics of neurotechnologies at the Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford University.
Good on
So
him.
this is one of our premier scientists who's obviously crossed over to the dark side. His quote, I don't think there's any risk of super smart rats from this. There's a big difference between sharing sensory information and being able to plan. I'm not worried about an imminent invasion of rat multiborgs. Is that
Well
not just
spoken by him.
a bold-faced lie?
I think he knows not what he does. Did Dr. Frankenstein realize what he was creating when he flicked the switch and lightning struck? I think not.
It's not Dr. Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monsters, Dr. Frankenstein. Ugh.
Jesus Christ, guy. Your desire to correct me superseded any need for you to do so. You were just waiting for the word Frankenstein to pop up
Mate,
so you could correct someone, and I nailed it.
I couldn't have made that up any more than I did. I was deliberately being an asshole in the
Yes, you
hopes that
were.
you would get on board with me. But
Nah.
it sounded
No,
too...
I'm too tired. I'm too tired, man. That movie really tuckered me out. I wrote some notes down. I'll see if any of them are worth sharing. Let me check real quick. I wrote the words "oh boy" down a lot.
Oh boy.
That was when the movie was starting, like for the first 10 minutes. That's just what I was thinking over and over in my head. I was just like, oh boy, 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 oh boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, here I am again.
Oh boy.
Watching it again.
Oh boy, oh boy. Not
Oh,
like this.
boy.
It takes... It's, yeah. It's, yeah.
One thing I did write down as well, Guy, if I may take you off track if you're just mindlessly agreeing with me, is the financials of the wedding. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, staggering, obviously. I mean, addressed in the film and maybe one of the only...
Ever so briefly.
Yeah.
Ever so briefly.
But also the closest the movie ever comes to referencing just the display of wealth that is out for all to see. They never really acknowledge the absurdity of their... I guess fleetingly with passing jokes, but they never really properly acknowledge just how insane the whole experience of the trip is. And this is the only time where it's actually like, so you paid money for this? And they're like, yeah, we had to pay money for this. We paid all the money for this.
Well, fuck the trip, briefly. The wedding. Let's focus in on this thing. We're in a destination in...
New Hampshire.
Connecticut. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Connecticut.
And it looks pretty flashy. So, you're dealing with the usual obscene amounts of venue rental for somewhere that can suit a wedding. So we're talking like, probably early 5 digits, right? Right there, up front. You've got a full choir, kind of 2 by the looks of it, that you've hired, of like full 2 male choirs of good-looking young men. So I don't know if the specificity of that drives the price up or if it's a happy coincidence. But either way, they're not there for free.
No.
You've hired Liza Minnelli as your officiator, and you've gotten a performance out of her. Now, I don't know exactly how bright her star is shining these days, but I can't imagine Liza picking up the phone on that kind of a gig for any less than 6 figures.
Okay. Good point. Well raised. Yes.
Catering. Always one of the most expensive parts of a wedding, and it doesn't matter if it's a cheaper wedding to put on, a more expensive wedding. It always scales with the wedding, right? So no matter how much they paid for everything else, the food is going to be proportionate to that. So I reckon whatever they laid down for Liza, they probably laid down again in catering.
Well, you look at it. So the night of the wedding, that's a free for all on champagne. I mean, there are half finished glasses all over the party. It is a caterer's sort of a young caterer worker's wet dream, because they could just go around scooping up all those half finished glasses of champers. They'd be getting absolutely trolleyed out the back, then walking around acting all
You ever
fancy.
worked a wedding, guy?
I've not worked a wedding as a caterer. I worked in. The reason I'm so keen on these half finished things is when I worked at an Asian fusion restaurant, and a lot of tables would order the buffet. And if they'd order the buffet, there'd always be more food than they could possibly finish. But for some reason, the restaurant was like, you can't take the buffet food home in a doggy box, whatever. Otherwise, it doesn't make any financial sense for us. So I would just look around for the untouched big bowls of curry, and I'd just be fucking, I'd slip around the back wall and just be putting it hand to mouth feeding, just straight in. Absolutely.
Jesus.
And if you got caught doing that, you were in big trouble. Sometimes I'd just fill up takeaway boxes of curry and hide them around the restaurant. Then during the cleanup, I'd just pick them up and take them home, feed the flatmates.
I remember when they established that rule at Mickey D's. I was at McDonald's, and we'd just bloody absolutely cane it on a run of like quarter pounders. Just make far too many of the things. So if someone was going on a break, you'd just siphon off about half a dozen of them upstairs.
Yes.
For the tea room. And then they changed the whole method of how it works so that I'm pretty sure this is the reason why McDonald's started doing build to order in New Zealand, because the staff were just making ludicrous amounts of burgers and eating them all. And although they made it this whole campaign like they were competing with Subway, where it was like, oh, we're going to make your burger fresh for you in front of you, da-da-da. Fuck that. No one's going to McDonald's to get a fresh burger. That has never been the case. That will never be the case. What they're doing is they're trying to save money by only making burgers as the customers order them, so the staff can't eat them all.
You've blown the lid on this whole goddamn operation, Tim Bat.
I have. I'm one for it, guy. I've got the brain that I see through the code. I can read the matrix.
You absolutely can. So back to the wedding. They blew all this money on the champers and canapes on the night of the wedding. The next morning, how much would it cost to have a full sit-down catered for meal for all of your guests, roughly 200, where they order off the menu with waiters?
Yeah. So do you think that Anthony and Stanford picked up the tab on that as well?
I feel like it was all... I feel like they fronted everything.
Yeah.
Although, no, it's getting pretty wacky. But, they all stayed in the same building where the reception was.
Well, yeah, but let's assume everyone paid for their own ACOM in that place, because that's generally how things go down at a wedding. It's like we're having it here.
I don't get asked to many weddings.
They usually Guy, when you got friends, mature friends who get married and enter into harmonious and committed relationships, they go, "We're getting married at this venue, and if you want to stay here, we got a discount, but it'll cost you $250 a night." And then you say, "No, I've brought a tent." And then
they say that's not really going to fit with the aesthetic of the wedding, Tim. It's kind of quite a nice place, and the only lawn available is for croquet.
You turn up and you look positively bush league for the aftermatch the morning after. It's terrible. Hair are all a mess.
Next thing you know, Tim Bat's waking up at 9 a.m. the morning of the day after the wedding with a croquet ball in his head. You know, two angry groomsmen holding mallets at the end of your tent saying, "What are you doing on here?"
Of course, this would never be my style, but I know there is a particular brand of lad out there who would just book no accommodation and attempt to bed whatever bridesmaid or friend thereof they could get their hands on that they know has got accommodation.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Well, except that you're using someone.
Yeah, but if they like you enough, it'll be fine.
Learning a lot about Guy Montgomery this episode. We're peeling.
I wasn't talking about myself. I was speaking hypothetically, and I can't.
Well, you're still talking about your value system, Guy.
Do
you know what I tried to do during the wedding scene? Alan, who's the annoying bitch who has Carrie and Big up against a wall because they decide not to have children. Yeah. She's outraged, she's shocked, she's mortified by the fact.
She's probably just terrified by her overbearing husband as well at every turn.
That's true. I was trying to see it from her side though this time. I was really like, okay, I want to enter into Alan's side of things. Let's try and see things from her perspective. And I struggled. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get into this mode of like judging other people for not having children and being shocked. What kind of a sheltered upbringing have you experienced that someone deciding to not have kids has shook you to your core like that? I guess a Mormon.
Yeah. Also, I think what I don't know if I mentioned in earlier episodes, formerly a member of the Church of Noeth, who then left to become a Mormon. So still holding on to some of those near and dear family value morals that are instilled in Nicky as well. And in fact, you'll see in several scenes in the background, you'll see Nicky and Alan making awkward eye contact and then avoiding them. They had a sort of a tryst during their time in the Church of Noeth. But I mean, that's by the by.
So you can't really describe the Church of Noeth as conservative per se because of this desire, want, rule, parameter, flavour of having rampant sex with people at weddings. Nor is it liberal.
Well, it's sort of, for members like Nicky and Alan, it's sort of a build your own belief system.
I like that. A pick and mix approach to
spirituality.
Right.
So in the higher echelons of the church, I mean, that sort of hanky-panky is outright forbidden. But for younger members who are sort of decaling their nequab, so to speak, I mean, it's commonplace, as it is, I'm sure, in any religion these days.
One final thing I wanted to share about the wedding, and then my notes ended abruptly because I think I fell asleep at that point for a bit, was I'll tell you what, I have developed a big old man crush on that gorgeous black guy who's hanging out with Pink Jacket, who took to Samantha.
Norm Lewis. He's an opera star.
Lewis. Oh, man. I got a big old boy crush on him.
He is dapper. He is charming.
Yeah. And that voice.
Yeah.
Isn't he a Broadway performer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man, he's so cool.
He is a bit of all right.
He's a handsome man. And he's got just the right amount of, in his delivery, like, what's the word? Kind of a smiley, cheeky delivery without it being too over the top. It's just enough to, you really warm to him.
I'm right there with you, Tim. And he's also got, I mean, he's bouncing off one of the heaviest actors in the film. I'm not talking physically. I'm talking about in terms of effort visible on screen during a performance, reminiscent of P. Schwarzenegger, Grown Ups 2, circa 2013.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Kim Bring the Noise Cattrall, but you were talking about Pink Shower the Pain Jacket.
I'm talking exactly about Pink Shower the Pain Jacket. Now, Tim, I'm just keeping an eye on time here, and I'm aware that we're already running late, as you might say. I've just got a note, sort of, if you will, an edit point. No, a correction. You know, in the newspaper, they get a fact wrong. Someone writes in and says, you got that fact wrong. The newspaper then prints a thing saying, oh, we got that fact wrong.
Yeah, dog.
Suzanne Summers never hosted Figure It Out on the Nickelodeon network. It was, in fact, Summer Sanders
Did
who
you
hosted.
suggest that at one point?
Yeah, I did. It's the sibilance, isn't it? It's the S sound. I got Suzanne Summers and Summer Sanders confused. Suzanne Summers and Summer Sanders. Suzanne Summers and Summer Sanders. That's a good tongue twister.
You're doing well with it. I completely missed that. I mean, I don't think I'd correct you because I don't know the show well enough either. But the only thing I know Suzanne Summers from is Step by Step, which is some more S's in the mix.
Suzanne Summers and Step by Step and Summer Sanders this summer. And the summer blockbuster. Suzanne Summers from Step by Step and Summer Sanders and this summer's blockbuster. That's too much. Look,
Jesus, you are an agile-tongued young man. You didn't trip once on that.
that's right.
Good on you, guy.
I was doing tongue weights in the off season. Hey
Well
Tim,
done you. Yeah, dog.
I think that's a squabbit-a-bop. Sorry, what I was trying to say is that skip-it-a-boo.
Squeebity-ba-ba.
Skip-it-a-boo-boo.
Squeebity-beep-beep. Squeebity-boo-boo. Squeebity-beep-beep. Squeebity-ba-ba. Squeebity-beep-beep. Squeebity-ba-ba. Squeebity-boo. Squeebity-doop. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-doop. Doop. Ba-ba-doop.
What's he
What's
doing?
he doing? Why
What's
is he
he
singing
doing?
scat to Frank Sinatra? That's the question.
Could I?
There's a man in this film, Guy. I want to just let our new listeners in and let them know. I feel like some people might have jumped on board with the 5-hour episode recently, which tip of the hat to you if that was your entry point. A lot of people have been getting in touch about that episode because I think there's been a lot of trips over the Christmas New Year period that people have been taking on planes and trains and automobiles. And thanks for listening, I guess is all I have to say. I don't know what's on that episode because I haven't listened to it and I can't remember what we said.
First of all, we got two guests in for the first half, Michael and Patrick King, and
That's
then
true.
I'm pretty sure that it's just us two just having the worst possible time. But that's neither here nor there. You're explaining what exactly he is wearing and how to tie a bow tie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware those were the questions we were answering. The guide to which we refer is the man in the back of shot when the film's quartet of ladies are sitting in a cafe having a bit of brunch, and over Miranda's shoulder is a guy who, through the magic of editing in the film, appears to consume an entire cup of coffee in 6 seconds in 3 gulps. He's just constantly downing that hot Java that he loves so much. And we've postulated over the weeks and months and seasons as they've gone by as to exactly what the fuck that guy is doing with that amount of caffeine in his system. And the truth of the matter is, Guy, we've cracked it this week.
Haven't we? Haven't we just? I couldn't agree more. Tim, the guy had a conversation with his partner, his life partner, his wife, if you will, if you abide the Church of Noeth, that very morning, who was sort of Samantha's best friend in the high school years. Her name is Kimmy, and they lost touch across university, and then through the years they'd keep in touch via emails, or initially faxes and then emails. And Kimmy has always maintained that Samantha and her are the firmest of friends. In fact, Kimmy categorizes Samantha as her best friend. And it's sort of the only real bone of contention in what is otherwise a very harmonious marriage, because Coffee Guy just he will not stand for this. He never sees her. I mean, if that's her best friend, he's got no idea, you know. The claim rings hollow on his end. And
Right.
he's pretty much gotten down to work. So what he's done is because of course, I mean, they were best friends, and I have seen Kimmy and Samantha were best friends right through high school, faded a little bit in university. They both they interned together in New York City initially after university, but then of course Samantha kind of got picked up by three other friends, a la Donnie and the Wild Thornberries. You know, it's Charlotte. I met Charlotte here, I met Miranda here, and Samantha, she found us. And what it is he's gone out there, he's done some research, he knows exactly where they load up on food and conversation. You'll notice a newspaper to the bottom right corner of his table relative to his body, okay? Folded over in half. Much like gangsters of yore used to carry a gun to guard in diners, he has placed a small dictaphone in which he is recording the conversation between Samantha, Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda. Now, as soon as Samantha says, you didn't think I'd go to Abu Dhabi without my 3 best gal pals, boom, job done. Lock it off, wrap it up, walk out the cafe, go home, win that argument, take a holiday in Antigua. I don't know what they do with their time together. But that's it. As far as he's concerned, that's a nail in the coffin of that argument, which has been a spectre over their marriage for nigh on 20 years.
Holy shit. He'd go to all that trouble to prove his wife wrong, that she's not actually friends with someone she's claiming to be best friends with since high school.
He's a petty man.
God, Samantha Jones has turned into this pawn in a horrible marriages war.
I think this is
Bride versus groom.
Yeah, what's happening now is just there are so many interesting subplots and side stories developing all around the action of Sex and the City 2. And I feel like we're finally approaching a point in our analysis where we can fully magnify and investigate all of these alternative storylines.
Well, thank God. Thank God someone had the wherewithal, time and commitment to do it. And thank God it's us. 2 gentlemen equipped with the mental faculties to dig through the malaise and fog of what the movie immediately throws at you, and to get in there, peel back the layers of the onion and find out that inside there is a bulb, and that bulb is shiny and not what you would expect.
Tim Batt could kiss you on the mouth if we were in the same room, but I cannot.
There's a bit of audio that I wanted to start using from the movie, but I'm not sure of what the copyright implications would be, so I'm just going to say it. Because it would be so perfect for one of our regular visitations on this podcast. Mr. Big walks in on Carrie, who was packing to take her overseas trip, and he's got this tiny empty cup of coffee, which is obviously empty. He takes an imaginary sip from it, and he said, I had an idea I wanted to talk to you about. And I wish we could use that bit of audio, but like I said, I'm not sure if we could get the clearance from the studios to chuck that on.
I have an idea I want to talk to you about.
I had an idea I want to talk to you about.
What we'll do is we'll harness and refine Mr. Big impersonations to the point that us delivering the line will be virtually indistinguishable from Chris Noeth, who's much busy with other ventures than acting in movies now, for those of you who are curious. Anyway, the book is called Mr. Big's Big Book of Ideas, and the man he's seen some highs, he's seen some lows, he's always scheming, always plotting, always planning, always drawing up something.
Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff going on in that book.
It's
inventions, patents,
back to
ideas
front,
for inventing patents.
Bottom to top, loaded with ideas. What's going on in there?
He's come up with a board game, guy. He's come up with his very own version of what's the old Milton Bradley game called? Rat? No. What is it? Rat Trap?
Oh, Mousetrap.
Mousetrap. Thank you. He's got a variant on it. So in a similar way to how often academics and professors and researchers who work in psychology will come up with games to test their subjects, right? They come up with fun little games that you can play, and then they derive some findings out of that, and they figure it all out. So what Mr. Big is trying to release out into the market for mass distribution this holiday season is a brand new game that is going to equip the world, make them ready to take on Brady's rat army. So he's developed a form of mouse maze where you're given a particular set of parameters similar to Cluedo, where there's like a set amount of resources you can use as weaponry, and some set battlefields that you can choose from, and then you have to get incredibly tactical at taking on the vermin that are in the board game. His ultimate goal with this isn't to make money. It's not to gain prestige among the board game crowd, you know, which are a lovely crowd to have the love of. We all know this. Lovely fan base to grab. He's not after that. He hasn't even put in his name on this board game. He's just there to prepare the masses, the general populace, for the coming ratocalypse, courtesy of one Brady.
He's not sounding the alarm. He's not. Because
he knows that will panic the people.
That's right.
That's the beauty of Big. He knows how people work, and he knows a little bit about how rats work too. And he's trying to use his knowledge of human behavior, which he's used so aptly and adeptly to figure out the stock market and make a lot of money in spite of his colorblindness
and vertigo,
and his big building that he lives in. He's now turning his hand to a more philanthropic end, which is saving humanity against the rats.
I hope that the first draft doesn't give too much away, so to speak. I hope he keeps some of that information under his hat. Maybe not use specific Brady or Dickbot friendly terms, but rather and not rats specifically, because I feel like that's only gonna. I mean, people are smart. They see bullshit a mile off, and they're gonna draw lines between things. But I mean, I'm very interested. As a plebeian level human being, as we both are currently graded.
Here's how he does it, because the way that you thread the needle to release a board game to educate the masses on how to prepare for the ratocalypse without tipping your hand to either Brady the Rat King or Dickbot the AI, is you use the thing that humans excel at, which is pattern recognition. You see, robots are very good at calculating things, taking things literally and figuring them out. And what rats are very good at is biological weaponry. They'll bite you, they'll scratch you, they'll fuck you up. They've got the numbers. They'll take you down. They're dirty beasts. They carry a lot of diseases. So what you got to do is, this is why humanity succeeded over the animals so far. We pass on our information orally through story and myth and legend. We transmit it. We don't go literal. This is why people who interpret the Bible as being literal text, you're an idiot. You're a fool. The earth wasn't literally created in seven rotations on its axis.
That's madness.
No, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, people. You got to learn. Because if you start taking that shit literally, we're going to reveal ourselves to our enemies. And that, you know what? Mr. Big knows that. He's a smart man.
A very smart man, and a force to be reckoned with in this forthcoming and ongoing Battle of the Titans.
Big time. Hey, Guy.
Hey, Tim.
Did you have a shining light for this watch of this film?
Tim, it wouldn't be a watch of Sex and the City 2 if Guy Montgomery didn't come packed with a shining light. My shining light was, well, it started as a shining light and then became deeply infuriating. But the shining light in itself was the very realistic retelling of the opening bars of a karaoke song with your friend. So you've got the four gals, they've just gone up, they're going to sing Iron Woman, Hear Me Roar, and there's confusion as around to the count that leads them in. I believe Samantha jumps the gun early, and she's credited by Carrie saying, no.
No, it's Charlotte.
She goes, no, we come in now. No, I think Charlotte tut-tuts. Carrie explicitly says when they come in. Anyway.
No, but Charlotte is the one who goes early.
Well, it's Charlotte. There you go. Anyway, whoever it is, I mean, you
would think you would know by this point, but yes.
Well, I was so absorbed in the accuracy of the storytelling. I mean, it's exactly like four friends singing karaoke. But they then go on to sing an off-pitch, an off-taste, no, I'm not going to say off-taste, but just not very good version of Iron Woman, Hear Me Roar. Not 2 minutes ago, a guy belted out what was more than a passable version of Foreigners, It Feels Like the First Time. Yeah. He was barely getting the interest of the crowd. And you mean to tell me that everyone in the crowd were like, they were captive. They just weren't engaging with it the way they do with Iron Woman, Hear Me Roar. I know it's filmed, I know you got to cheat a little bit. But their version is worse than his version of Feels Like the First Time. The only thing they do to engage the crowd is Carrie throws at everybody, which is, I mean, maybe that's the cover-up, but...
I suspect as well that they're doing karaoke with a version where the lyrics have been slightly adapted as well, because Paul F. Tompkins, when we had him on, noticed this as well. I'm not sure if we brought this up in the episode.
Embryo.
No, just an embryo with a long, long way to go. Is that in the song?
That's in the song. I heard it.
I've never heard it before.
I heard it on the soundtrack to our lives on New Zealand radio recently.
Good God.
Anyway, that was my shining light, Tim.
Hey, thank you.
And
so hold on. Let me drill down into this. The shining light is the kind of friendship moment of doing karaoke together, or is it the fact that they get a lot of love in the building, which they don't deserve, or what?
It's the acting and storytelling at the beginning of their song. When they get it wrong, they're all laughing and they're all nervous, and one of them sort of takes charge and says, no, we come in now. So it's that moment between them walking on the stage to sing karaoke and them starting to sing karaoke. As soon as they start singing karaoke, the moment's gone. You know?
Okay. I haven't said anything for a while because your Skype cut out a little bit there in the middle.
I was very articulate.
Okay.
Very articulate. Now
I'll assume the best.
let's put a pin in this thing, Tim, because it's time to go. But before we do that, we have a very exciting non-rat based announcement.
Two, in fact. The first one is I'd just like to say thanks again to Josh Peters. We've started using his banjo intro now for the podcast because I think we've entered into a increasingly sad period. I'm just like, I think it is more capturing of the mood of where we're at now. So we'll go out on his one as well. Josh Peters, thanks again for producing that for us. Completely, we didn't ask for that.
No, apropos of nothing. He's a good guy.
He is. And sorry, as you were with the second big announcement, which is, I would say, cooler.
Yeah. We are very excited to announce that we will be ending discussions vis-a-vis Sex and the City 2 live from the city from which the franchise and television show was born, in New York City, baby. Oh my God, I almost fudged it because I made it sound like we were going to go to Abu Dhabi, but we are absolutely not going to Abu Dhabi. We're going to New York.
We did toy with the idea briefly, but we decided not to.
Yeah.
Because we're idiots, but it just wouldn't... The gag of doing it wouldn't quite be enough to serve going all the way to the Middle East.
That's quite right. So all we know of, we don't know the venue yet, but all we know is that there will be a live final episode of Season 2, The Worst City of All Time, in New York City on March the 3rd. So other than that, we can't give you any information because we are not particularly well organised gentle folks and we have no more information to give. We're also looking at doing a split bill stand-up show. Just because, I don't know. I don't know what you think, Tim. I reckon that'd be fun. That's just, I'm sort of talking to you off. Well, obviously I'm on mic, but this is, you're just looking at me absent-mindedly.
The Skype's coming in and out, so I'm just saying if it's going to catch up. But yeah, no, everything you said I'm going to assume was all good. We're heading to the East Coast for the first time for a live show. It's going to be great. So check off March 3rd in your calendar, in your iCal. Tick that whole evening off because you're going to be hanging out with your old mates, Timbo and Guy. And it's going to be cool. And we're also toying with the idea of mayhaps doing a little stand-up show while we're there as well, doing half an hour each. So I don't know. If you care enough to want to go and see that and pay small amounts of dollars for it, let us know.
Tim,
I guess.
I didn't. Yeah, that's a grand idea, Tim. I had no idea we were planning on doing that. I think that's a choice as idea. So
we should do it.
Yeah, more details to come as they come. Otherwise, for fuck's sake, could we just turn this thing off?
Yeah, mate. You go and enjoy the rest of your holiday, and God bless you.
God bless your little consofts. Decal your nequa.
It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. Season 2.